Hey guys, welcome back to the Growers Corner. So for our second video this year, I wanted to take some time to talk to you about, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, who've never set one up, how and what to think about when going about setting up an indoor for the first time. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that you want top shelf cannabis, start with top shelf genetics. That's just that simple. Now, as far as what to consider in the indoor, you should always consider your space, and that includes things like height, because your lighting, depending on what you decide to go with, is going to require a certain amount of space between the bottom of your light and the top of your plant, so that when you flower it out, you don't burn the top of your colas, right? So you need to consider the height of your space. You need to consider the overall square footage of your space, so you know how many plants you can put in there, right? And then you also need to consider the light quality. If you're doing metal halide, HPS, LEDs, etc., all of those things are great. All of them have their pros and cons. All of them have a certain amount of light intensity. All of those things can be enhanced or made better by a reflective surface. Grow tents like this one can be purchased for a few $100s on the internet to keep the light in and the light out. Now, the cheapest, easiest way to go, quote unquote, is just straight white walls. White paint works. It's better than nothing, believe it or not. Aluminum foil is another cheap fix, quote unquote, that helps increase the light intensity, helps increase the amount of light that you get lower down, for fairly cheap. Now, the one that I prefer, the one that most professionals prefer, if you don't have a grow tent, can't afford one, etc., etc., Mylar. You can find it at your local hydroponic store. You can probably find it at Home Depot. I've never really looked. But it's basically an industrial version of aluminum foil. It's like might even be between like 4 and 8 mil, depending on what you get and where you get it. But you can put that on the walls, and that is highly reflective. And that's basically as good as you're going to get without buying a grow tent that has the reflective walls and everything already built into it. So always do your best to make sure that everything is installed as properly as possible, preferably by a professional. And use quality equipment, such as a grow tent like this with reflective material. You can have multiple lights, different kinds of lights, LEDs, HPS. Get your trays. Not sure if we'll be able to zoom in. Get your temperature gauges and your fans, and you're almost there. So now that you've got your space figured out, you know how many plants are going to go in there, right? You want to think about your lighting, of course, but with that, the temperature. Is the room that your room is located in cold? Do you need to supply some extra heat? Is it winter outside? Do you need to supply that extra heat to make sure the room maintains 70 degrees? Is it hot outside? Do you need to have massive ventilation? Is the room that your room is in or outside of, etc., in the heat? So with that extra light heat, even a little bit from the LEDs, okay, you're going to need some sort of a ventilation, whether it's passive, just screened openings, or whether or not it's powered exhaust, be it from a turbo fan, inducting, and all those things, or an AC unit, right? So, okay, we've addressed the temperature. With the temperature control is going to become a little bit of a fluctuation in humidity. So we've addressed humidity as well, or can address humidity as well. We need to think about, again, vertical height, but also watering. And with watering, the height of our pot or our hydroponic table, all of the, you know what I mean, whatever the plant is sitting in, from there, you're going to have a plant that's X amount of inches tall, a foot tall, etc. When you turn off the lights and you start to flower them, generally speaking, your plant is going to stretch anywhere between 18 inches and 24 inches. So you need to keep that in mind, take that into account in your vertical height calculations, right? They're going to go up about 18 to 20 inches. I need about 18 to 20 inches above that between the top of my plant and the bottom of my light. After that, it's pretty much plug and play. Pick your medium and go after it. You want to have a temperature gauge, if you can, at root level, at canopy level, and then at light level, so you know what the temperature is at all the different zones in your grow room. Just a few things to think about, guys. Something to consider when putting together your greenhouse or your indoor. All right, so until next time, this is the Grower's Corner.